The Dharma Discourses of Cardinal Master Chongsan. Part 2, Dharma Discourses. Chapter 10, Being Assiduous and Sincere. One Cardinal Dharma Master Chongsan said, "People of this world typically trust in what is apparent and visible but not what is otherwise. Their attention becomes immersed in external splendors, and they do not attempt to seek internal truth. Although they examine carefully even the tiniest of bits when it comes to immediate gains and losses, they do not give proper consideration to future transgressions and blessings. As a consequence, their actions always fall into mere formality and false appearances. They are unable to cultivate their fundamental abilities, and, after indulging in vanity and avarice each day, they ultimately fall into the pit of transgressive karma. How can this not be pitiable? There is a fable about a buck that was vain about his elegant antlers but despised his unsightly legs. One day he had to flee through the woods from a hunter. What saved him were his legs, which were ugly but quick. What could have killed him were his antlers, which looked magnificent but impeded his escape. This fable is a warning that accurately portrays the reality of this world. The Master continued, "Nowadays, in accordance with the development of material civilization, the splendors of the world are becoming ever more dazzling. If one wants to possess and utilize to one's heart's content all these conveniences of civilization, one needs fame, power, and wealth. As a consequence, human sentiments are naturally swayed by that aim, so that those who have managed to acquire some of them becomes arrogant and conceited, whereas those who have not will undertake any demeaning action in order to fulfill their desires. In the process, people commit all sorts of transgressions and sow the seeds of numerous enmities. Then, one morning, when the hunter of adverse conditions suddenly threatens them, they are thrown into utter confusion and look for a place of escape, trying to overcome the danger with all the single-mindedness, knowledge, and action they can muster. But since their abilities have not received any training in advance, they can hardly produce much effect. The fame, power, wealth, and other such things that they have previously acquired tend to become hindrances in various ways, leading them deeper into a fatal state. How pitiful it is! What is more, at the moment of death, which every person faces, the fame, power, and wealth acquired over a lifetime will be utterly useless. Instead, these will have caused one to accumulate unwholesome karma and to have become tangled in attachments, constraining one's unhindered spirit and obstructing one's affinities with the path of wholesomeness. Therefore, you must think deeply about this and bear it in mind, so that, whenever you face any situation, you will always assess your mind's capabilities and devote yourself sincerely to fostering the three great powers of cultivation, inquiry, and choice." The Master continued, "Since you have already entered an order that is cultivating the way, you must have a general sense of what is true and false. However, even while having that sense, if you do not check yourself well every moment of every day, you may still become easily enticed by external attractions before you even know it. In practice, too, if one has lots of scholarly knowledge, is able to write well, or can speak eloquently, then one may pride oneself on the advancement of one's practice. Or, if one receives compliments or is well treated, one can easily become conceited and think that one has made a great achievement. However, true practice does not consist in language or writing, rather, it consists only in your spirit gaining the power of freedom and thereby possessing the ability to enjoy complete mastery with regard to the 6 rebirth destinies and the 4 modes of birth, in realizing the foundation of all human affairs and universal principles, and thereby possessing an ability that is free from doubts or confusion regarding what is true or false and right or wrong, in acquiring the ability to keep all the precepts effortlessly by having all of your choice in action be in accord with the Dharma and the regulations. Only then may you be called a person who has attained Buddhahood. Therefore, in religious orders, regardless of how ignorant, lowly, or inarticulate a person may be, if that person's faith is rooted in the Dharma and he or she is making progress in mind practice, then that person will never be regarded lightly but will be expected to become a great Dharma vessel in the future. The Master continued, "Furthermore, once you have gained some ability with regard to this mind practice, you will be able to control all things in the universe and utilize correctly fame, wealth, and all types of learning. External splendors that are based on the true power of mind practice are like water flowing from its fount and shadows cast by real bodies, that water and those shadows become real themselves. Look. From ancient times to the present, is there anyone who has ever been able to damage the reputation of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, sages, and saints, taken away their authority, or been averse to their splendor? The more time passes, the more resplendent their reputation becomes, the more people are awakened, the greater their authority grows, and thus they come to accomplish great desires by abiding in a realm that is free from desires. Therefore, by cultivating well this realm that is free from desires and fostering an ability that is free from forms, I hope that each of you will become a great worker in accomplishing our founding Master's public enterprise of the great opening of spirit. 5. The Master said, although it is easy for a person to make a passing name for oneself, it is difficult to prove oneself over time. Although it is easy to learn the names and characteristics of nominal things, it is difficult to comprehend their authentic truth. Although it is easy to perform a wholesome act that gains recognition at the moment, it is difficult to cultivate the fundamental roots of goodness. Names and characteristics are like shadows, only on the foundation of authentic reality will there be true gains and true fame. 6. The Master said, one who is arrogant loses people, one who is too ostentatious loses truth. To lose people is to abandon the world, to lose truth is to abandon oneself. Seeking the way after losing these two is like expecting a harvest after losing the seed. 7. The Master said, a lesser person's wholesome acts are easily ignored while his unwholesome acts are easily noticed. It is like something filthy that is nicely wrapped in silk, there is no hiding its stench. A superior person's faults are easily ignored while his wholesome acts are readily noticed. It is like gold and jade wrapped in a rag, their value remains the same. Therefore, a virtuous person does not spend his energy on external affectations but scrupulously practices inner cultivation, always making every effort to foster one's true abilities. 8. The Master said, do not take pleasure in ostentatiousness in anything you do. To be ostentatious externally but inconsequential internally is the root of ruin for the individual, the family, the society, and the nation. 9. The Master said, synthetic fabrics will never be the same as silk. Do not exert yourself in external ostentation but only cultivate what is real. 10. The Master said, when falsehood crumbles, it crumbles completely, but truth cannot be extinguished even by heaven and earth. 11. The Master said, an old saying refers to body, speech, writing, and judgment, which means that a person's character is evaluated by one's appearance, articulateness, writing style, and judgment. Of these, judgment is most important, but even more important is that person's mind. 12. The Master said, worldly people often evaluate others only by their external appearances, but in religious orders, people's characters are judged by whether or not the seed of blessings and virtue are sprouting in the foundation of their minds. Just as conventional people often evaluate others by their academic affiliation or their social status, people's character is judged in religious orders by whether or not their minds are endowed with a nature that is inclined toward discovery of truth. Although worldly people evaluate others by their current positions or reputations, people's character is judged in religious orders by whether or not they tread the path of righteousness in their actions. 13. The Master said, human ailments in such peripheral areas as the eyes, ears, or limbs are not immediately life-threatening, but ailments that occur internally, especially a heart attack, can cause instant loss of life. Likewise, in the ailments of the mind, minor faults that are involuntarily displayed out of habit are not critical symptoms. If, however, one deceives one's own inner heart, especially committing unconscionable acts without regret and thereby paralyzing one's conscience, then one's character will be ruined. 14. The Master said, one's external appearance and academic affiliation make up one's outer character, one's internal conscience makes up one's inner character. If we were to compare these to a tree, the external character is the branches and leaves and the inner character is the roots. The roots have to be well cultivated for the branches and leaves to be luxuriant and the fruit abundant. 15. The Master said, there are three kinds of learning. First is to expand one's knowledge by external listening and learning. Second is to cultivate one's knowledge through self-awakening by internal study and inquiry. Third is to apply in practice what one has learned and awakened to so that one's conduct will be consistent with one's knowledge. Of these three, learning through practical application is most important. 16. The Master said to his students, in ancient times, there was a village gatekeeper in China named Ha-Ying. He was just an ordinary gatekeeper, but because his ability and talent were so extraordinary, not only was his reputation widely recognized throughout the realm but his modest village gate became famous as well. If, in the future, a person of great ability and achievement appears among you, then our academy will also become famous, just like that village gate in ancient China. Nowadays, the age of empty formalities has passed, and true ability and practical achievement have become crucial qualifications. Only those with real knowledge and actual applications will be sought after and employed in the world. Hence, you should not be enticed by external formalities, but only exert yourselves on acquiring real ability. In the future, whichever workplace you may enter, I hope that you exhibit your abilities in your given post and thereby make yourselves and your workplaces well recognized together, as Ha-Ying did for his village gate. 17. The Master said, in the world to come, one's ability must have matured before one can stand on one's own 2 feet. The conditions behind real ability involve more than just knowledge or talent. Rather, one needs, first, to be sincere, second, to have public spirit, and third, to possess power of the way. He continued, those who will become masters in the world to come are those who have Dharma rank, who are authentic, and who benefit the public in one way or another. 18. The Master said, the world of Maitreya Buddha refers to a world that is assiduous and sincere. Even religions will flourish in this world only by having doctrines that correspond to reality and by emphasizing self-power as their main tenet, and individuals, too, will do so only by being diligent in their vocations through self-power and by producing results that lead to real public benefit through the true power of the way. 19. The Master said, politicians make a lot of noise, but persons of the way accomplish great works quietly. They handle great public matters just as if they were eating meals and doing household chores. 20. The Master said, the founding master always used to say, in the future, those who insist on empty formalities will meet with disillusionment in their lives. In the coming world, a person must be sincere and possess real abilities in order to be successful, must have faith and public spiritedness in order for that person to be put to use in the world, and must be virtuous and active in order to accomplish great enterprises. 21. The Master wrote these lines in literary Chinese for Chan Guang, those of superior wisdom treasure faithfulness. Those of average wisdom treasure fame and gain. Those of inferior wisdom treasure material goods. The treasure of material goods is as vain as floating clouds and as precarious as a pile of stones. The treasure of fame and gain may seem glorious on the outside, but lacks authenticity on the inside. The treasure of faithfulness is in perfect correspondence with the way and thus has infinite longevity, and fame and material goods are fully endowed therein because their inside and outside are completely interfused. 22. At Sandong Temple, the Master wrote a line in literary Chinese in an album of single phrases, rain or shine is up to heaven. Later, he visited Namwon Temple and said, the line is not complete. Adding these words will make it a living Dharma phrase, to sow or cultivate is up to human beings. 23. One day after finishing an apricot, the Master said to Pak Kong Hun, do not throw away this fruit stone but plant it somewhere around the practice site. A mind that enjoys planting trees is a virtuous mind. Then, he said, even though you may not see it bear fruit in your lifetime, you will be planting seeds of virtue for posterity. This is a person of the way's state of mind, which has ample room for advancement. So, enjoy planting trees. 24. A Confucian scholar who was ordained into the order later in life was residing in the headquarters without any assigned duties, which the manager considered unfair. The master said, "The very fact that a Confucian scholar of that caliber is residing in our premises will offer covert encouragement to others. Also, shouldn't we create a Dharma affinity with him so that he may accomplish great things for this order, if only in his next life?" 25. A student had a fit following serious mental anguish and his mentor suggested sending him home immediately. The master said, "When a severe attack of intestinal convulsions occurs in the body, we can make them subside by merely opening up the 4 critical points with acupuncture. Likewise, when a violent upset occurs in a person's spirit, that mental fit may be stopped by looking after and opening up a few blocked points of mental anguish. Hence, do not just think of sending him home, but let us try instead to open up his mind's 4 critical points." 26. Whenever key figures from branch temples or institutions visited, Cardinal Master Chongsan would always inquire about every detail concerning their situations, and when there were difficulties, he would perforce keep track of them and, after thorough consideration, offer his solutions. 27. A dormitory superintendent reported to the master, "What should I do about a student who will not listen, no matter how much I try to guide him?" The master said, "A counselor who tries to force the student to submit to his own temperament will not succeed. Your edification will succeed if you guide him slowly and by proper steps after first observing the student's spiritual capacity and temperament and clearly understanding his aptitude and desires." 28. A student asked, "Isn't it proper to expel colleagues who lack fidelity?" The master said, "To expel colleagues because they lack fidelity would also harm your own fidelity, hence, this would be a minor justice. To forgive them and help them ultimately find fidelity so that you may complete your original vow together is major justice." 29. An ordained devotee was creating a schism in the order by exerting much energy into gaining popularity. About this, the master said, "The admiration that you set out deliberately to gain will bring disenchantment when it vanishes. Hence, don't be concerned about gaining popularity. Once you possess the power of the way and public spiritedness, you will not fail in edification for a lack of disciples." 30. An ordained devotee expressed his intent to enter the world of politics. The master said to him, "For a person who has already made a vow regarding the great enterprise of attaining Buddhahood and delivering sentient beings, what other work should he take on to the neglect of this one? Persons of the way should become teachers of politicians rather than becoming politicians themselves." 31. One day, the wife of an important political figure was supposedly coming to visit. One group of devotees was preparing to welcome her, while another was opposed. The master said, "Make preparations without exceeding what is proper. She must have already accumulated a certain amount of merit, and if she comes to entertain friendly feelings toward our order, wouldn't that create an affinity for her future deliverance?" 32. Observing how birds often sat on the branches of a persimmon tree and ruined the persimmons by poking at them, the master said to his attendant, "Even those birds should not accrue debts when they're not rendering any assistance in the founding of this great order. Shoo them away." When the attendant was not around, the master shooed them away himself. 33. After meeting Cardinal Master Chongsan for the first time, Kim Chingu said of him, "An unclouded moon and a fresh breeze." Wang Songte said, "A gentle breeze and felicitous clouds." And Pyongak said, "The best face I've ever seen in this world," and how assiduously the master must have pursued a life of practice for his face to brim with such peaceful joy and kind-heartedness.